He was born a slave, crippled, beaten, owned by another man. Most people in his position would have given up. But Epictetus didn't just survive. He became one of the greatest philosophers in history, and he taught Roman emperors how to live. This is his story. Epictetus was born around 50 AD in Hierapolis, in what is now Turkey. We don't even know his real name. Epictetus simply means acquired one in Greek, a slave. He was born into slavery, and as a young boy, he was sold to a wealthy Roman official named Epaphroditus. In Rome, his life was brutal. As a slave, he had no rights, no freedom, no future. But here's where it gets worse. Epictetus became crippled. Some say his master broke his leg as punishment. Others say it was disease or an accident. Whatever the cause, Epictetus would walk with a limp for the rest of his life. Imagine that. A slave, crippled, in one of the harshest empires in history. Everything was stacked against him. But here's what makes Epictetus extraordinary. Despite having nothing, despite being owned, beaten, and broken, he discovered something his master could never take from him. His mind, his ability to choose how he responded to life. You see, Epictetus had a master named Epaphroditus, who, ironically, valued education. And through some twist of fate, Epictetus was allowed to study philosophy. He sat in the lectures of Musonius Rufus, one of the great Stoic teachers of Rome. And there, in those lectures, Epictetus heard something that changed everything. You are not your circumstances. You are your choices. Think about that. A slave, hearing that he could still be free, not physically, but in the only way that truly mattered, in his mind. Epictetus embraced this with everything he had. He realized that his master could chain his body, but couldn't chain his thoughts. His master could take his freedom, but couldn't take his dignity. His master could break his leg, but couldn't break his will. This became the foundation of everything Epictetus would teach. Eventually, Epictetus was freed. We don't know exactly how or why, but once free, he didn't seek revenge. He didn't chase wealth or power. Instead, he opened a school in a small town called Nicopolis. And there, this former slave began teaching philosophy. At first, it was just a few students, but word spread. Because Epictetus didn't teach from books or theories. He taught from his life, from his suffering, from his transformation. And his message was radical. It's not what happens to you that matters. It's how you respond. Freedom is not having what you want. It's wanting nothing you don't have. No one can hurt you without your permission. These weren't abstract ideas to Epictetus. These were truths he had lived. He had been a slave who found freedom. He had been broken who found strength. He had nothing and discovered he needed nothing. His students loved him, not because he was eloquent or educated in the traditional sense, but because he was real. He was proof that philosophy worked. And then something remarkable happened. Word of Epictetus reached Rome, reached the palaces, reached the emperors themselves. The most powerful men in the world wanted to learn from a former slave. Emperor Hadrian studied his teachings. Marcus Aurelius, perhaps the greatest of all Roman emperors, filled his personal journal, the Meditations, with Epictetus's wisdom. A slave, teaching emperors. Think about that reversal. But here's the beautiful irony. Epictetus never wrote anything down. He believed philosophy wasn't about books. It was about life. Everything we know about Epictetus comes from his student Arrian, who recorded his lectures in a book called the Discourses. And in those lectures, Epictetus's voice comes through clear and strong. He's direct, tough, uncompromising. He tells his students, stop complaining, stop blaming, start taking responsibility. He says, don't wish for life to be easier, wish to be stronger. He teaches, you control 3 things and 3 things only: your thoughts, your actions, your responses. Everything else, let it go. This is the philosophy that changed the Roman Empire. This is the philosophy that emperors, generals, and statesmen lived by. And this is the philosophy that's experiencing a massive revival today. Because the truth Epictetus discovered 2,000 years ago is the same truth we need today. You are not your circumstances. You are not defined by what happens to you. You are defined by how you respond. Epictetus died around 135 AD, quietly, in his small school. He died as he lived, simply, with dignity, free, not free from hardship, but free within himself. And the legacy he left is this: a crippled slave became one of history's greatest teachers. He owned nothing, but he taught emperors. He suffered everything, but he found peace. He had every reason to be bitter, but he chose wisdom instead. That's the power of philosophy. That's the power of Stoicism. That's the story of Epictetus. A man who proved that true freedom isn't about your circumstances. It's about your mind. Follow Sage of the Agora to learn more about the wisdom that changed empires and can change your life.